established rich coming right back at you. Sometimes a bad decision can make you rich, and at the same time, it can make you invisible. That's the situation going on right now with one of the most famous radio shows in hip-hop history. The show that once dominated the morning culture. The show that for years was the center of the hip-hop conversation. I'm talking about The Breakfast Club. For more than a decade, the show was a daily habit for millions of people. People woke up with it. People watched it on their phones. People watched full interviews on YouTube. People argued about it in the comment sections. It wasn't just a radio show. It was a digital community. You had Charlamagne Tha God, DJ Envy, and you had Jess Hilarious. For years, they built a machine that was powered by one thing, access. The show was everywhere. Radio, social media, YouTube, clips, interviews, comments. Every morning, people could tap in for free. But then something happened. A massive deal. A deal reported to be worth $200 million. A deal between iHeartMedia and Netflix.
Breaking news. iHeart does a deal with Netflix. Told you that's where it was going. This is telling you exactly where the market's heading, by the way. Netflix just cut a deal with iHeartMedia to bring video podcasts to the platform starting in 2026. Now, that includes The Breakfast Club, My Favorite Murder, Dear Chelsea, Roya Mao. But let's be clear, this is not about podcasts. This is about distribution power. Netflix is going straight at YouTube and at some point Spotify, and they're locking down exclusivity, so full video episodes can't live there anymore. Audio stays with iHeart, video becomes premium real estate. This is the next phase of the consolidation. Not companies buying companies, but platforms absorbing formats. Radio brands still build the talent, podcasts build the intimacy, and now streaming wants the visual layer to own the audience relationship end to end. If you still think radio versus podcast versus video are separate lanes, you've already fallen behind the curve. Audio is the base, video is the amplifier, platforms are the battlefield, and this move just shifted the board. Now watch as this evolves. It will be syndication on the radio formats. The audio will be the radio element, and the video will be the platform of Netflix. And at some point, all of that will come together, and Spotify will get swallowed up by Netflix. Mark my words.
And just like that, The Breakfast Club moved. 4 episodes left YouTube and were put on Netflix. And the moment that happened, the momentum changed. Because here's a rule about the internet that a lot of people learn the hard way. The internet don't follow you. The internet stays where it is. If you build an audience in one place, that does not mean they will follow you somewhere else. It sounds simple, but millions of dollars have been lost learning that lesson. And right now, we're watching that lesson play out in real time. Because the Breakfast Club didn't just move platforms. They moved habits. And habits are hard to change. For 15 years, people watched full shows on YouTube. For 15 years, people could open their phone, click a video, and watch. No paywall, no subscriptions, no extra steps, just click and watch. But now the full shows live on Netflix. And that changes everything. Because most people don't open Netflix in the morning. Netflix is for nighttime, for movies, for series. Netflix is not where people go for morning radio. And that's where this story gets interesting. Because even the hosts themselves have started talking about the change.
I ain't gonna lie, yo, since Breakfast Club been on Netflix, man, our engagement, our people all the fans that we built up over time, or that they built up, I just got here, that they built up over time on YouTube, oh my God, they feel neglected because Netflix was like, nope, we want all of it. Y'all can't have no other social media presence, none. So now we gotta find other content to do that can go on our other platforms. But it's okay, because Jess Hilarious got that in a bag, shorty.
Now, when you hear that clip, you can hear something important. The energy is different. The comments ain't there. The community that used to talk back every morning is quiet. And that's the real cost of moving platforms. You don't just lose views, you lose conversation. You lose the comment section. You lose the daily interaction. You lose the feeling that the internet is in the room with you. And on YouTube, The Breakfast Club had that. Millions of views, thousands of comments, people arguing, people laughing, people debating. It was a living community. But on Netflix, there is no comment section. There is no feedback loop. It's like talking into an empty room. And that's why some people are saying the show feels like an echo chamber. The content may be the same, but the environment is different. And in the digital age, environment is everything. But here's where this story gets even more interesting. Because if you look at this from a business perspective, this might actually be a genius move. You heard that right. Because while people are laughing about a drop in engagement, somebody else is looking at a $200 million check. Now let's look at this story from a completely different angle. Not from a fan perspective, but from a business perspective. Because if you step back and remove the emotion from the conversation, you start to see something very interesting about this deal. This may have been the perfect exit strategy. See, a lot of people are looking at the loss of engagement and saying that the show is dying. But business don't always work the way fans think it does. Sometimes the goal is not to keep momentum going. Sometimes the goal is to cash out while you still can. The Breakfast Club has been on the air for over a decade. That's a long time in media, longer than most shows survive. Most media brands don't last that long without a major drop in relevance. But the Breakfast Club held on. They had viral moments, iconic interviews. They built a massive digital footprint on YouTube. But even the strongest media brands have a life cycle. And if you pay attention to media history, you will see the same pattern over and over again. A show peaks, stays popular for years, then slowly the momentum starts to decline. New platforms come along, new voices enter the space. The internet moves faster, and the brand that once felt fresh starts to feel familiar. That don't mean it's bad, it just means the culture is moving. And when you a smart businessman, you pay attention to that, which is why this deal makes a lot of sense for Charlamagne and DJ Envy, because they built something valuable. They built a brand, they built an audience, they built a platform, and then they sold access to the platform. And that's how business works. You build value, you build leverage, you build something people want, and when the right offer comes along, you take it. That's exactly what this $200 million deal looks like. This wasn't just a deal for one show. This was a deal between iHeartMedia and Netflix to move multiple podcasts into the streaming world. But the Breakfast Club was the biggest name attached to the move. And that's why people are paying so much attention to it. Because what we're watching right now is a clash between two different realities. The business reality and the audience reality. The business reality says this was a huge win, a massive check, a major partnership, a global platform. But the audience reality says something different. They say, why would you pay for something you used to get free? And that question is at the center of this entire story. Because the internet has trained people to expect content for free. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everything is free. Everything is instant. Everything is accessible. But the moment you put that same content behind a paywall, the behavior changes. People start asking themselves a question. Is this worth paying for? And in many cases, the answer is hell no. Not because the content is bad, but because people are used to a different habit. They used to opening YouTube. They're used to scrolling. They're used to clicking the video without thinking. But opening Netflix for a morning radio show, that's a new habit. And new habits take time. Sometimes they never form at all, which is why so many people are saying this move killed the momentum of the show. The viral moments are gone. The comment sections are quiet. The daily internet energy just ain't there. And when you remove that energy from a show that was built on internet culture, it starts to feel like the show disappeared. But again, from a business standpoint, that may not even matter. Because when you cash a check that big, the game changes. Now let's talk about the biggest lesson in this entire story. Platforms. Because in the modern world, your platform is just as important as your content. You can have great content. You can have talented hosts. You can have years of history. But if you lose the platform where your audience lives, you can lose your presence. And that's the real risk that comes with moves like this. When the Breakfast Club built this digital power, it didn't happen on Netflix. For years, people opened YouTube and saw Breakfast Club interviews trending. Full interviews, clips, viral moments, comment sections filled with thousands of people talking. That comment section was a part of the show. The audience wasn't just watching, they were participating. That's the magic of YouTube. It creates community. It creates discussion. It creates the feeling that you are part of the moment. But on Netflix, that experience is different. Netflix is built for watching. It's not built for conversation. You can't open the comments. You can't see what people are saying. You can't argue with the other viewers. You can't see the culture moving in real time. So even if the show is the same, the experience is different. And when the experience changes, the energy changes. This is why some people say the show now feels like it exists in a bubble. The content is still being made. The interviews are still happening, but the internet is no longer responding the way they used to. And when a show loses that response, it can start feeling like it disappeared. Not because it's gone, but because people ain't seeing it in their daily feed no more. This is what a lot of media companies are learning right now. Your audience belongs to the platform first, and they belong to you second. If you build your following on YouTube, your audience is used to YouTube. But when you ask your audience to leave their habit, a lot of them won't. Not because they don't like you, but because habits are hard to break. This is why so many creators are careful about moving platforms. They know the risk. They know that sometimes the audience won't follow. And if that happens, you can lose your moment. But here's the other side of the story. Sometimes losing your moment don't matter if you already got paid. And that's the part a lot of people are forgetting. This was a $200 million deal. That kind of money changes the conversation. When the money is that big, the goal is not always to keep the internet happy. The goal is to secure the bag. The goal is to set up your next chapter. And if you pay attention to the career of Charlamagne Tha God, you can see he's always been thinking about the next chapter. He's written books, He started media companies. He's been positioning himself as something bigger than just a radio host. So it's very possible that he already knew the risk of this move. He may have known that the YouTube momentum would slow down. But if you're thinking about your long-term career, that may not even matter. Because sometimes the smart business move is to exit while the brand still has value. And that's what this deal looks like. It looks like a businessman taking a massive check for a brand that was already past its peak. Now, whether that move helps or hurts the legacy of the show, only time will tell. Because if the Breakfast Club stays hidden behind a paywall long enough, something else could happen. The culture will move on. New shows could take the space they once occupied. And one day, people might ask a question that used to sound impossible. Whatever happened to the Breakfast Club? Not because the show stopped existing, but because the internet stopped seeing it. And in the digital world, if people don't see it, it can start to feel like you don't exist. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Established Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.